I think that basically LSAC has significantly ramped up the number of test administrations because they want to be more accessible. They want to be more friendly. Many law schools have in the past few years started accepting applicants with GRE scores. Not that many people. I've talked to a couple of folks. I talked to Rob Schwartz, the dean of admissions at UCLA. I talked to Kristen Mercado at UC Davis, and both of them said, and the interviews are on YouTube, by the way, if you want to listen to those or watch those interviews. But basically, both of them said that fewer than 5% of applicants who were accepted had applied with GRE scores specifically. So most students are not applying with GRE scores, but LSAC is still very concerned about competition from the GRE because the GRE is administered on the computer already, has been for many years now, and is available to take pretty much every single weekday, 12 months a year. The LSAT previously was only 4 times a year: February, June, September, or October, and then December. So 4 times a year versus nearly every weekday. Obviously, GRE wins that one. So LSAC has looked to ramp that up and said, well, we can do 10 times a year, which is pretty good, nearly every single month. Now, instead of having to wait 2 to 3 months to retake if you feel that like you need to, now you've only got to stay fresh on the LSAT for another month or so at most. So that's pretty appealing. So they're doing their best. And the LSAT, of course, is much more difficult to create than the GRE is. GRE, they can just substitute new math questions or new vocabulary questions, new vocabulary words, new numbers for different math problems. Very easy. The LSAT, on the other hand, has such intricacies of language that I think it just is not possible to create new test forms that easily, new test questions that easily. I talked to one guy who's a former writer of actual LSAT questions, and he told me that they might take 1 out of 10 questions he proposes to them or submits to them or writes, they would only take 1 question out of 10, and that was considered pretty good. So their standards are very, very high. It takes a tremendous amount of work to create a single new LSAT question or a single new test form, and so they're doing the best they can. They can't do more than 10 test administrations a year, at least for now, and it would cost them a ton of money to create more tests. Like I said, it cost them $750,000 to create 1 test form, and that number might even be outdated at this point. So that's why, but they can't go beyond that. And so that's going to lead them to be a little bit less transparent, unfortunately. Not ideal, but most serious law school applicants should be taking the LSAT anyway, regardless. I think that GRE typically applies to those who have some sort of unique background or work experience of some kind. But for the average person, the average pre-law, the average humanities or political science major, the LSAT's probably the way to go.